You're listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast, a podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz podcast. I'm Polk, joined by Chris Ward and Guthrie Rasmussen. Zach Napolitano couldn't join us, but I'm glad to have you three alongside me for this recap podcast. Steelers versus Titans. Guys, how are we feeling on a Victory Tuesday?
We're feeling very good. Feels good to be 6-0. It was a very close game. We were all texting, getting pretty nervous toward the end there, but we'll definitely dive into it.
Yeah, it's good that the Steelers are 6-0. They're the lone team right now undefeated in the NFL, which is, the first time I've ever saw, definitely, because it hasn't been since 1978 where the Steelers had a 6-0 start.
Yes, that 27-24 victory did give them that 6-0 record, their best start through 6 games played since 1978. And with the Arizona Cardinals' victory in overtime against the Seattle Seahawks, it leaves your Pittsburgh Steelers as the lone undefeated team in the National Football League. And you know what, guys? It hasn't exactly been the prettiest 6 victories, but I'll certainly take them. And as I got kind of shellacked by some of our Twitter followers, I thought I said this in the most positive way you could say luck. I got a couple trash emojis. I got a little bit of a clickbait, and I'm just like, how? I don't write clickbait.
Yeah, you sometimes get that with the, how Twitter is. It's a free for all. Sometimes they they think that you're saying something which you're really not. If they read your article, they would know that you weren't bashing them. You're just saying, hey man, Roethlisberger threw 3 interceptions, and Gostowski missed a 45-yard field goal that just went to the right. So the Steelers played a good game. It could have been better, but they did have some luck on their side.
Definitely, because normally when you throw 3 interceptions, and your defense doesn't force any turnovers, that spells disaster. Especially when you give up that big touchdown to AJ Brown. It's just, I would definitely attribute this to luck, but we'll take it.
Hey, I'm not complaining. Sometimes you got to have those victories in this league, but really, guys, I was kind of like sitting there, and it's like I had to ask my parents who've been around for like the 70s and stuff like that, and it's like we've been very spoiled for all of us throughout for our young ages to see good Steelers football, very good Steelers football, championship winning Steelers football. I was sitting there going like, I've never seen a team more dominant in a first half, really in any like facet of football for like a chunk of time. Am I crazy?
I think you have a good point, because we've never seen them get off to a start like this. 6-0. I tweeted after the game that this season reminded me of the 2004 season, Roethlisberger's rookie season. When they went 15-1 in the regular season. Now some people on Twitter, they thought like, oh, this reminds me of 2004. That their first thought was that AFC Championship loss to the Patriots where they just got blown out. But just speaking the regular season stance of that, we were young at the time when that happened, but that was a dominating season also when they went 15-1.
2004, I was 9 years old.
Yeah, I was 10. So I was a young football fan at the time, but I still remember some of the big wins they had that season.
Guthrie, what about you? I know you're the youngest here, but
I'm staying quiet because I don't really remember it. My memories of that season is watching. They have this like a Super Bowl documentary for the year after. I always remember just seeing the beginning of that movie was, talking about the 2004 season and how well they did just to lose to the Patriots. Then that was supposed to be their year, and then the next year is when they ran it back. Of course, what they wanted to happen happened.
I was talking to Guthrie on the other show. You don't want to look too far ahead, but say the Steelers get past the Ravens this week and win. You look at the rest of their schedule. They might only lose like 2 games when you really look at it. You think
fun times to be a Steelers fan, but I want to talk a little bit about that other show. As you've probably been seeing on the Renegade Blitz Twitter page, we've kind of gotten into a new venture. It's called the Locker Room Map, which is sort of like half sports talk, half, like interesting conversations with reporters. It's kind of like what we do here, but it's an app where you can also join in on the fun. You can also talk to us and really ask us questions about what we think. Guys, talk about it because I haven't been able to get in on the fun really.
Yeah. Sadly, currently it's only on the Apple device is only on the App Store, but this is an app that is backed by Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala. They're basically the ones who made this happen. They did the funding, but yeah, this app kind of lets us do a show like we're doing now, but yet we can have people in the audience actually join into the discussion, and then the app invites audience members to start their own shows and start their own discussions on more than just sports. Like I started up a PlayStation room, just to see if I could gauge any, get anybody talking about the PlayStation. Just getting, it's just basically it's a wide open, arena that you could, just get people to talk to. And currently, me and Chris, we do a show on Monday, 7 to 8, and Friday 6 to 7 Eastern time. That's just what we did during the beta period. We might, try to shake it up a little bit, just do a couple random shows when news comes out. But for now, we just like to, try to get a couple. We haven't gotten as many fans from the page in there because of the wait list, but we've been getting a lot of feedback from the people that were also part of the beta, and we're trying to fine tune our live show.
Yeah, it's a really fun app to use. It's really easy too. It's really easy to navigate. And like what Guthrie said, it's kind of like a live radio type session where like you could call in and give your opinion or thoughts on the Steelers and everything, ask us questions or whatever's on your mind. So it's a really cool app. Definitely recommend downloading it. What's the locker? It's just Locker Room on the App Store.
Type in Locker Room app. Go on the App Store, and very much looking forward to when it gets to Android because they're definitely missing out on a lot of people, including you, Tyler. They're definitely looking for people on Android to get in there and get in on the fun too. Yeah, but also another pretty cool thing is that you could host live watch parties where it has a score on top of the screen. And you can, you could sit there and watch the game with fellow Steelers fans and just talk during the game. That's probably something that we could look at doing down the road, but who knows? We'll just have to see where the app goes.
I can't wait to potentially be a part of it. It might force me to get an iPhone or an iPad or an iPod or something like that, but definitely if you're a fan of our work or if you just want to have Steelers talk, download this app. And if you have any Apple devices, and surely with what I've seen in the article from Axios with Kendall Baker, they're going to be working on that Android thing. So don't worry, guys. If you're like me with an Android, just hang tight. The Locker Room app, I haven't been able to enter it, but from what I've heard from the guys, it certainly seems like something that can change the game for blogs like us.
Yeah, it's definitely key to have the fans in there talking too, because sometimes when me and Chris are there alone, when there wasn't that many people in the beta period, it got a little tough because it's just two guys just rambling about the Steelers. But it's kind of cool when you have people in there asking questions, saying, "Hey, what did you think about this guy's performance? Do you think that I'm not a Steelers fan, but what do you think of his fantasy outlook for the rest of the season?" It's just kind of cool to get other people's perspectives, and you could bring in other beat writers and other people that just talk about the other team to give us feedback. We had a Titans guy come on and talk about the Titans, and he came on today to congratulate us for our win, and it's just cool because you can really just get a lot of people on there and different perspectives.
It'll be exciting times on the Locker Room app, but for now, let's get back onto our podcast, the Steelers Titans recap. And man, can we just talk about that performance in the first half by both the Steelers offense and the defense? Just a dream start. The goal was to keep the Titans offense led by Derrick Henry on the sideline as much as possible, and you cannot say that was not just maybe the most fun. You could see a team go up 7-0 on someone. In the first quarter alone, the Steelers possessed the ball for 13 minutes, 39 seconds to Tennessee's 121, and the Titans only had 1 yard gain that entire quarter. The Steelers had 130 total for 8 first downs. With the outcome of the game and what happened later, the biggest question, at least for a lot of Steelers fans and probably people who are interested in the NFL season, which Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to be shown more? That first half, just absolute dominance, or that team that survived in the second half?
Hopefully, the first half won because man, like you said, they were dominating. They scored on their opening drive, which is the first time they did that since week 15 of the 2018 season when they played the Patriots. So they got off to a really good fast start, and the Titans' third down defense and the red zone defense, they came into the game both ranking last, and it really showed early on. I mean, they really struggled in those football situations there. But the second half was just completely different. They just couldn't convert those third downs like they were in the first half, and Roethlisberger just started having some badly timed interceptions. He had the one that was tipped at the line of scrimmage, and then the one towards the end of the game where he just kind of tried to fit that ball in there in a tight spot to JuJu Smith-Schuster, and the Titans defense players made a great game, a great play.
You made some really good points. It's just, starting off with 24 points in the first half and then only scoring 3 in the second half was not going to be sustainable, especially against this Titans team who, could very much make some adjustments. Mike Vrabel is a very competent coach. Future's definitely bright for that unit down there in Tennessee. It's just, we definitely just came out lucky, based off of our second half performance.
Yeah, the Titans, every game other than their Buffalo win, they've all been close. They've all won by one-score games, and I think Tannehill had 4 fourth-quarter comeback, something crazy like that. And they almost did it again there at the end of the game. They're really a tough, resilient group down there in Tennessee, and I wish the Steelers would have put on the gas more there towards the end, but I don't know. They made some halftime adjustments, the Titans, defensively, and they started to really do better on third downs in the red zone.
Yeah, there's definitely 2 coaches in the NFL I'd like to play for. It'd be Mike Tomlin or Mike Vrabel. The double Mikes there. I think them. They're just both probably 2 of my favorite coaches in the league, and this game kind of showed that. How well. Definitely the game of the day, pretty much.
Even though Vrabel, he didn't coach under Belichick, he still comes from that, Patriots type of, when he played there. And I agree, he's one of the top coaches, I think, in the league.
Always interesting to see 2 of the top head coaches battle out there, and it'll be exciting to see if the Steelers and the Titans meet again in the playoffs.
I think they will. I mean, who knows what could happen, but I could definitely see that happening, though.
It's a long season, but yeah, they could be definitely on a collision course.
Even though it's week 7, it feels like we've already gone 17 weeks. You just don't see this. You see this Steelers team figure it out later in the season. So far, they've got it going early. It's now time to see if they can maintain. But I want to get on to Ben Roethlisberger's performance. And guys, what can we really make out of this? He finished the game 32 of 49. That's a 65% completion percentage for 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, but those 3 interceptions and a quarterback rating of 67.4. The offensive line allowed no sacks in the game, and Roethlisberger just got hit 3 times. You mentioned a little earlier with those 2 interceptions that were off-tip balls, and Chris, you listed him as a loser in your post-game winners and losers article. But to begin the game, really, you could not ask any more out of Ben Roethlisberger. That laser beam to Diontae Johnson, fitting it between the Titans defender's hands to open the scoring, and another to Diontae on a nice move that he just walked in untouched into the end zone.
Yeah, it was like you said, he played a great first half and everything, and the one that he threw at the end of the half, the interception. I don't know why they didn't try to throw a shorter pass. I know they didn't have any timeouts, but try to throw a shorter pass to the sidelines to get in field goal range. They could have got 3 points there, but I guess Tomlin said after Ebron's false start, their plans changed after that, so they just went for the Hail Mary. And then I put him. It pained me kind of because he didn't really. He played. The interceptions really what cost him. Other than that, he played a pretty good game, but those interceptions led Tennessee to come back in the game. And they almost won it because of that. I thought the last one was really crucial. I mean, I know he took the shot and at JuJu. It was tight coverage. And Tomlin, they don't live in their fears and they have no regrets about it. And, Ben definitely has the arm strength to make that throw. But I think I give hats off to Tennessee for making that defensive play there. But I would have, Charlie Batch tweeted out something where he had a receiver open underneath and he could have, made that throw there. And
it was Johnson, actually.
Was it Johnson? Yeah, Johnson. And, he could have got the first down or at least put the Steelers in field goal range. a better field goal range.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough situation. That definitely, I think Ben Roethlisberger would like to have that interception back. I would have, just try to get some on the sideline there and just get a couple more yards, see if it's even possible to get, Boz in range. But yeah, definitely would have hoped for the field goal there. But hey, I like when they take those shots. Just you got to make sure you're not throwing into triple coverage and putting your receiver in a bad position.
Yeah, I think it was like a Tampa 2. So the linebacker was running up the middle of the field, and 2 safeties were over top. So, 3 players in the area of JuJu, definitely. And then I would have liked to see, try to play for that, field goal at least, because if they got Boswell out there to kick it, made a 6-point lead, and, they only won by 3, and they almost tied it to go to overtime.
Yeah. Yeah, but back to Ben, I feel like that first half was his saving grace. That first half was like some of the best I've seen him play. We'll probably get into this, but that pass to Ebron, that Mahomes like pass where he with his left arm, that was pretty unreal vintage like Ben plays, and that was just very cool to see. But yeah, I mean, I just wish we could have those 3 picks back. Other than that, he had a perfect game.
Yeah, I tweeted after the final interception. Because it was incomplete. They could have, if that pass was incomplete, they could have kicked the field goal. And I said on that play, that was the worst thing that could have happened there was Tennessee intercepting and getting the ball back and being down by 3.
I'm glad that you mentioned that halftime play was more Tomlin wanting to go for it all there, because I thought it was just like, Ben, that first half, he was feeling himself a little bit, and I thought that really, like, what sparked his great play was jawing at Jeffrey Simmons of the Titans, because it's just like you don't really see Ben get fired up. He's not like Phillip Rivers where he doesn't mind jawing there. I don't really remember Ben trash talking all that much.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with Simmons on that play. I think he might have gave him a little bit extra when he was getting up after hitting Ben. And Ben's coming off of surgery last year with his elbow. He missed most of the season, so he definitely, he doesn't want to take those extra, shots, and he might have considered it like a little bit of a cheap play, maybe with Simmons, adding a little bit more pressure on him. So yeah, he definitely wasn't happy there with him.
It's like this team is just so, I also think about the play with Claypool when he was, doing the first down in some guy's face. That was pretty good too. And
it's Malcolm Butler.
Yeah, that's a pretty ballsy move to do the veteran, the Super Bowl winner. But yeah, still, this team's got some dog in them.
It's always fun to see a team with swagger, especially when it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. But guys, the running backs for the Steelers really had an underrated stats day. James Conner led the way on the ground with 20 carries for 82 yards, no 100-yard play, and along with 3 receptions for 29 yards, he would have had a touchdown reception if it wasn't for a holding penalty on Chuck Securafor. Benny Snell had a rushing touchdown on the ground for the Steelers in his 2 carries for only 2 yards. So guys, it was a strong day for James Conner. I felt, he doesn't have to get 100 yards, but he kind of had a little bit of Lev Bell with him. He had a nice spin away for a first down on one of those runs, but it didn't feel like he was going out of his way to make Titans defenders miss him. He was charging at them as well. Guys, what are your thoughts on Conner?
All right. Yeah, he was, Conner had a similar game to when he played the Browns where he was running, physically. Like you mentioned, he was giving stiff arms to Titans defenders. He didn't have a, overall great game as far as like the stat sheet, but, I put him as a winner for the game just because he ran really hard in the first half, especially. And towards the, the second half, they weren't running as efficient, and just the offense overall wasn't as good. But, he had 111 yards total from line of scrimmage. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good day for Conner.
Yeah, it's just nice to see, Conner continue to, shut up the doubters, especially after the early season where everybody was hopping on the Benny Snell train. But yeah, the only thing I'd like to see is, I think later in the game they should have either gave Conner some more carries or involved some of the other backs a little bit, didn't put it all on Big Ben to, extend the lead. Because, I feel like if you would have focused more on the running backs, we wouldn't have seen as many turnovers. Anthony McFarland Jr. had 1 carry for 6 yards, and that was all he got. And I was hoping maybe to see a little more out of him. And we saw Jalen Samuels back in the lineup a little bit. And that's been kind of a rarity these days. So, I think just keep involving these running backs.
Yeah, Jalen Samuels had a carry on a reverse, which has become a huge staple of Pittsburgh's offense. I understand that Ben threw the ball 49 times. I don't even have to check it. That's his most he's thrown all year. It's like, what do you think is like the sweet spot in terms of less Ben throws, but also putting the running backs, even Connor, with that 25 carry mark?
Yeah, probably. You don't want that's a little bit too much. 49 pass attempts you want to see with Roethlisberger. I know they weren't running the ball as efficient in the second half, but yeah, you definitely wish they could have maybe got the run game going or not have Ben throw as much. Jared Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, he tweeted today that Ben Roethlisberger is 5-10 in his career when he attempts 49 or more passes in a game. Before Sunday, the previous time he won throwing that many times or more was December 10th in 2017 when he had 66 attempts for 506 yards and a 39-38 victory over the Ravens.
Yeah. So in perspective, like the numbers we saw to Ryan Tannehill this weekend, 18 for 30 with 2 touchdowns. We want Ben Roethlisberger to have a little bit, better completions there, but that's kind of the range of throws I think you want to see out of Big Ben, and doing a couple touchdowns with that.
I believe the Steelers wanted to attack in the air because remember the Titans were without Adoree Jackson, who could have really caused some havoc out there, and they have Malcolm Butler, who is a big name, but really only for one play, that Super Bowl interception. So I think the Steelers weren't afraid to attack in the air, but they could have reined it a little bit more back and, just allow James and maybe get us to see a little bit more out of Benny Snell. He hasn't gotten as much run since week 1. So you hope that the Steelers at least try to spread a little bit more carries in there.
Like you mentioned, it seems like they're replacing some of these runs with like jet sweeps, like we saw with Ray McLeod, and they tried to do one with Claypool, like a little pitch to him, which was ruled a catch, fumble, and then recovery by Claypool. But yeah, I think you definitely want to see Benny Snell get more involved. He's been like kind of like their short yards back, lately. He had the second straight touchdown in 2 games. So yeah, the last 2 games he had a touchdown against the Browns, and this week he had one against Tennessee. But
so Chase Claypool also, he wasn't really heavily involved. Do you guys think we should have seen more Claypool?
I think I heard during the broadcast that they had Malcolm Butler. He was actually shadowing him, which was interesting because Butler, I guess he usually doesn't travel with receivers. When we had Teron Davenport on our podcast last week, he said he usually doesn't travel. That usually Adoree Jackson usually does that. But yeah, so the Titans were really, really keen on Claypool in that game, and it showed with them, shutting him down. But that gave other receivers opportunity to work. JuJu and Diontae Johnson had a great game.
Yeah, the focus was in the air, and Diontae and JuJu, as you said, were the leading receivers in this game against the Titans. Diontae had 9 catches for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Smith-Schuster had 9 catches for 85 yards. And whereas Johnson was the scoring threat, JuJu was Mr. Third Down, especially in that 16-play, 72-yard drive that took 7:38 off the clock before ending in that turnover on a pass intended for JuJu that would have gave him that 10th reception. And Eric Ebron also had a nice day with 6 catches for 50 yards. It was more of a concentrated effort receiving-wise. It's like the Steelers did a good job of spreading around in the receiver position, but of course, you mentioned it with Malcolm Butler, and also James Washington wasn't on the stat sheet. So it's a hero of the day attack in the receiver position. But guys, what are your thoughts on this?
I was just gonna say, you remember last week on the podcast we were talking about how because Washington, he wasn't a factor in this game. We were talking about how how are they going to put 4 receivers out there with Johnson coming back for this game, and yeah, definitely they're so deep at wide receiver, so that's definitely a good problem to have. The Titans, you saw them; they were playing off a lot. They wanted to keep everything in front of them, and Diontae Johnson made them pay there with his yards after the catch. Especially on that one, his second touchdown.
Yeah, it's just this unselfish team, just getting other guys involved. That's just what we need to do in order to be successful. Because you already know Claypool and James Washington will have games later on in the season that we'll see other guys on the stat sheet don't look like they have as big as days. But it's just keep spreading the ball around. Share the wealth.
And quickly, we'll get into the special teams here. Guys, it's a feeling across Steelers Twitter. Ray McLeod's going to break one soon. He had a very nice 57-yard punt return that he almost took to the house. I believe he got caught by a defender. I don't know. Was it the kicker? I can't remember.
I don't think it was the kicker, but it was somebody else. But definitely,
definitely slowed him down.
The kicker, he kind of cut in and slowed him down. But he almost took that to the house.
Yeah, it wasn't like DK Metcalf, but it was a very good effort by the whole team, chasing him down.
Absolutely. That 57-yard punt return set up Diontae Johnson's 9-yard touchdown catch. But guys, also there was another thing that we have to talk about here, and that's the return of Jordan Berry after the release of Dustin Colquitt. 2 punts each going 50 yards and each inside the 20. I know that there was a lot of talk about potentially getting Marquette King, and that's kind of a guy I believe that a lot of Steelers Nation wanted over Jordan Berry, having him return. But there was also worry that the Steelers had a practice squad punter. They thought he was going to start. It's just that's what I was hearing. And then out of nowhere on the screen, here's Jordan Berry.
Well, I guess they brought Berry early in the week, so that made him eligible through the COVID testing and everything. Yeah, but they kept Colquitt till Friday, and I don't know why that was, but they brought Berry back, and he didn't do too bad in his first game back.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with how he did. I'm kind of happy we went with Berry this for the short term because he's familiar with our system. He's got rapport with Boz. I just think this is the best move to make now. This after what we've seen at Dustin Colquitt, who's obviously a legend, but obviously we were dead last in punting, something needed to change. So.
Yeah, Polk, he was struggling, and like you mentioned, Guthrie, Berry is familiar with the team, especially with the holding for Boswell. That's huge, and with the whole COVID thing, it's kind of best just to go with someone that you're familiar with.
It's interesting that you tell me this about the punting being last in the league, but remember, if there's one thing that hasn't happened a lot this year, it's the Steelers actually punting. For a lot of Steelers fans, and for me that just didn't really see that, we haven't had to punt a lot, so what's the point of this? Just explain Colquitt's stats if you can.
In 5 games played, Dustin Colquitt ranked last in the league with a net punting average of 37.1 yards and was 29th in gross averaging 43.1 yards. Berry hasn't always been consistent, which is why they released him and gave Colquitt the starting job before the start of the season. In 5 seasons with the Steelers, Berry has a net punting average of 39.9 yards and a gross average of 44.2 yards.
Yeah, so I guess the Steelers just decided to go with the familiar face, and I mean just based off of what we saw with Berry, we were talking about it. 50 yards a punt averaging, that's like you said, half the field. That's pretty significant. And I mean, what we saw out of him, I think that's just better than what we've had before.
Yeah, definitely a net punting average of 37.1 yards for Colquitt. So yep, first game, Berry was solid, and hopefully he does that. He continues to perform well moving forward.
You have to wonder what affected Dustin Colquitt. Was it the wind coming off the North Shore, just not being used to it, going out to the loud house that is Arrowhead Stadium? Sometimes things don't work out, and it's a shame considering that his pedigree, his father played for the Steelers and won a couple Super Bowls here.
It's definitely a great story. I'm glad we got to, have the legend in the black and gold for a little bit. But, I think he definitely knew he could have done better. And, I don't think there's any ill will between these two. And, it was just cool to have him and have, since his dad was here. It's just definitely an interesting story. It just didn't turn out the way we wanted it, of course.
I never stopped the recorder because it's good enough, because it's where we can get no sound, so I can, do my edits and put in the noise reduction and try to get it a little crisper. So it works out well, us doing this.
Cool.
So now we'll move on to the defense, and the biggest key was shutting Derrick Henry down rushing-wise. Overall, Henry rushed for 75 yards on 20 carries and a touchdown, averaging 3.8 yards a carry. His longest run in the game went for just 17 yards. It's the most rushing yards a single rusher has got against the Steelers, but he was able to be contained, especially in the first half.
Yeah, I thought the defense did a really good job. I knew Henry was going to get, at least some yards, but 17 yards is his longest run is, that's excellent for against Henry. The Titans kept on feeding him. That's the way they operate. Is that it doesn't matter how much you stop him early on. Their mindset is that he's eventually going to wear some defenses down, and then he's going to break a long one. And I thought the Steelers front did a great job. And what a hit by Spillane on the goal line there on 3rd and goal, just came in crashing down, head-on head collision with Henry. Now he hurt his shoulder on the play, but and the Titans scored like a couple plays later because Minka Fitzpatrick was called for defensive holding on 4th and goal. But excellent effort by Spillane, and his shoulder's good too. Thomas said that it's all right today, so just a great performance to see by defense overall, and see Spillane come in there and not back down from Henry.
Yeah, that's exactly what you wanted as defense, is just to not back down, and I believe that's what we saw. I mean, this amount of yardage from Henry is what the lowest amount I thought he would get. I knew he'd get some yards. I'm just glad we were able to, see plays out of somebody we're going to talk about a lot, coming up, TJ Watt, and the guys that came to fill in, Cam Sutton. Just it's all overall team effort this week.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be like a Saquon Barkley type, 15 rushes for 6 yards, because one, the Titans have a better offensive line, and that's their MO, is just to keep on feeding Henry.
Yeah, going back to that Saquon Barkley thing, that's the Titans are just a traditional, quarterback in single back I formation, hand it off and go. I don't even think Henry got any receptions in this game, if I remember off the top of my head. Let's talk a little bit about Spillane while we're going into with the run defense, and he wanted his opportunity to hit Derrick Henry, and as you guys said, he certainly got that chance. Guys, what are your thoughts on Spillane's game?
I thought he played. I mean, he didn't show anything that was like really, the tight end for the Titans, like JuJu Smith was shut down, and he didn't look terrible in pass coverage. I know they switched up snap counts, switched up snaps with UG3 out there as well as linebacker. So and Edmonds came down as a dime linebacker at times too. So they kind of filled in multiple ways for Devin Bush. But as far as a run defender, I thought he did good.
Just being able to limit those tight ends as the team effort and the way they game planned, I think that was very key to the win here, because talking to the guys we talked to on Locker Room, I'm sure the guy you talked to, they were all very high on JuJu Smith and Versker. They were supposed to be the guys that were going to kill us.
Yeah, Tannehill's very good on play action, and we saw that on Sunday with that 73-yard touchdown pass to AJ Brown. That was off play action, and Spillane and Vince Williams, they both kind of bid on the play, and Minka hesitated and just took a bad angle, and after that, AJ Brown was just off to the races.
Yeah, let's get on to the other linebackers here. TJ Watt, as you mentioned, 5 total tackles, including 3 for a loss. Also had a sack, a quarterback hit, and a pass deflection at the line of scrimmage. Vince Williams led the Steelers in tackles with 10, and 9 of those were solo. Williams also had a sack as well, 2 tackles for a loss, and a quarterback hit. Williams leads the NFL with 12 tackles for a loss, which is the most over the first 6 games of a season in franchise history, and tied for the 3rd most in the league since 1999. Vince kind of does his thing. It's loud, but at the same time, compared to the other linebackers in the Steelers system, Devin Bush when healthy, TJ Watt, and Bud Dupree. So, guys, hearing this stat from Williams, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Vince Williams was excellent. And, I've always been a fan of Vince, just as a player in person, really. He's a great run defender. People get on him as, his pass, coverage, because he's not, like, built really for that. But he's been doing great in pass coverage, I thought, and he loves running, defending the run, and that really showed against the Titans on Sundays. He didn't back down from Henry either. You saw a lot of plays there. Like you mentioned, 10 tackles, and 9 of those were solos.
Yeah, I mean, the pass coverage is just not who he is. Just to see him, doing that well, really encouraging. But yeah, he's definitely a bruiser. He feels like he's been on this team forever. He's been here since 2013. He was a 6th-round pick. So it's just great to have him on the squad. He's definitely, he's 30 now. He's looking like he's getting better and better every year.
Yeah, he's been with the team since 2013, and he was a 6th-round draft pick, and he's a great, real competitor, and I know he carries that as a chip on his shoulder. It definitely shows in his playing. He's just a real physical player, and just a typical Steeler, really.
It's kind of insane he's been there for that long, because sometimes you forget that he's 30, because it feels like he's been here for 15 years. It's the quintessential Steelers linebacker. He's been through so much, and again, it's really good to see him do well. And middle linebacker in a 3-4 is counted on for so much. They kind of have to be like not only a little bit of a pass rusher, but a coverage guy. And with those 2 sacks, the Steelers have registered at least 1 sack in 63 consecutive games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. That 63-game streak is also the longest in regular season franchise history. And when you think about so many names that came through in the linebacker position for the Steelers, Shazier, you still had early Bud Dupree, which was kind of lauded with Steelers fans, and guys like Jarvis Jones, Sean Spence, Arthur Moats. It's kind of insane that streak has lasted so long, because when you think about it, the Steelers defense, it's predicated off pass rush, but sometimes the pass coverage wasn't exactly there.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I bet James Harrison's still there somewhere. I mean, has it been that long? I don't know, but definitely some great linebackers have been a part of, and corners even, just getting that sack total up. I just wonder what the last game was. The 63 games ago. Like, what was that? What was the world like? Was that it's a pretty crazy stat, and let's just hope it keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, I think the record's 68, but do you know, or 69? So the Buccaneers have it, I know.
Yeah, but that's definitely a record would be pretty cool to grab. But they just got to keep it going. If any team can do it, it's definitely this team who's on. We're on pace to get I think like 80 sacks potentially. They just got to keep it rolling.
The record's 69 by the Bucs from 1999 to 2003.
Yeah, but who knows if the Steelers, sniff that high in sacks. But, just even get close to that would be great, because I want to look back at this defense and, put them up in the same respects as the 2008 defense. They just got to keep it going and keep more and more and more each week.
The one area I want to see them improve in is not give up the big play. Mostly just, especially in pass defense. I think so far this season they've let up, 3 70-yard plus touchdown plays. The Slayton touchdown, and no, it wasn't that one. It was
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, definitely one of them, and then AJ Brown. It might have been just 2.
Yeah, but they definitely need to stop doing that, because that will definitely come back and bite you. But I guess that's just a testament to how much they're blitzing and how much they're getting after the quarterback.
The blitz rate is the best in the league. And let's talk a little bit more about the pass defense. As you guys mentioned throughout our coverage of this game, AJ Brown had 6 receptions for 153 yards, 25.5 yards per catch, if you're wondering, and a touchdown. And yes, those 153 is accounted by that 73-yard catch and run for a touchdown in the third quarter. And for those wondering, Tannehill passed for 220 yards in this game and 2 touchdowns. We've also mentioned a little bit with that Fitzpatrick's error in coverage. It's just one of those games for him. Guys, we applauded Minka after that interception and a cover 1 robber look. Is this just like something that's honestly a blip on the radar for the Steelers defense, or is this a future problem?
It's definitely something that they want to fix up. Make a he's better than that. He should have made that play. It happens to every player, but I think he should have came up better on AJ Brown there. Did you guys see the defensive hold? Obviously, you saw, but what did you think of that? Was that I saw some Steeler fans saying it was like a pick play, and that should have been called on Tennessee, but Minka clearly held the receiver on that play.
Yeah, I definitely see that as being a Fitzpatrick, mistake there. I don't know if it was a pick play. I didn't.
Yeah, it was tough.
I didn't pay attention that much, but yeah, I just feel like he's just got to tighten up. Sometimes I just want to grab him and shake him and be like, "Dude, you're better than this," and he knows he is. I think he'll get better and better. I think it's definitely a blip on the radar, but this definitely stuff needs to be addressed and looked at on film.
Oh, I looked at definitely that Sanders play was that 80-yard run, and then they gave up that 73-yard touchdown pass to AJ Brown on Sunday. But the other one was the Darius Slayton, but that one was just for 41 yards touchdown pass. I mean, still a big play, but so that's 3 40-plus yard touchdowns they gave up this season.
It comes with the territory of being a ball hawk, and we forget that Minka Fitzpatrick's only in his third year in the league, and sometimes it's just like young player mistakes. I mean, a lot of people were saying that yeah, it's a hesitation and a bad angle, but I thought he slipped. I didn't really see anything that was necessarily, obviously, of course, the play was bad, but it's just like I didn't see necessarily anything you could say that that's just a bad read.
Yeah, I mean, credit to the Titans. That was a great play call by them, and the linebackers bid up. So Minka was really he was the only one left back there because Brown got separation on Nelson, and once he took that one step, Brown's a great player where he just could take that and run with it for a touchdown. But yeah, I'm not really worried. It was 2 bad plays, really. The defensive holding and letting up that touchdown. But you definitely want to see him make more splash plays because while it was a great play against Mayfield in week 6 where we had that 33-yard pick six, it was actually also a really bad read by Baker Mayfield. So hopefully that it won't be, but hopefully he makes more splash plays other than that one.
Yeah, I definitely saw a couple people slipping on the field there, and that might have been the case there. But yeah, we'll just hopefully he gets better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, it did rain in Nashville too. I think that day or that morning or whatever.
Well, if there's one person who had a good game, it was his safety partner Terrell Edmonds. He had a nice game with 2 pass deflections, and one that was especially good on JuJu Smith in the back of the end zone, and also helping out with 2 pass deflections is Cam Sutton replacing Mike Hilton out there. So guys, there was some downs in the pass coverage, but at least we could say that there was some good out of this situation.
Yeah, I thought Sutton played an excellent game, filling in for Hilton, 4 total tackles, and like you mentioned, 2 pass deflections. And Edmonds has been playing really well. That's 2 straight games where he's had a solid game, and that was a great pass breakup he had on JuJu Smith in the end zone there when the Titans were near the goal line.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with exactly what you said with Terrell Edmonds, that I hope we keep seeing a jump week after week. It's kind of like what we expect out of Minka, but, they're both kind of flip-flopping as the weeks go on. And, it'd just be nice when they're both synced up. But, yeah, we definitely missed Mike Hilton out there. But, the team filled it in. Vince Williams leading the team in tackles and Joe Hayden getting a bunch of tackles. We saw a lot of guys, stepping up, for this, for him missing.
Yeah, and Steeler fans, they give a lot of flack to Edmonds. Especially last year. And, it was only his second year. And, like Bud, we didn't see him break out to his 5th year. So sometimes you got to be patient with players. And, Edmonds this year, he had that big sack on 4th down and with the week 2 game against Denver to give the Steelers the ball back. And, they closed it out. So, Edmonds overall, he's been playing pretty solid this year.
Yeah, he's definitely auditioning for his 5th year option, which is slowly approaching. And, and so far what we're seeing, it's going to be hard not to ink that 5-5-year option for him.
All right, guys. So before we wrap up, with your final thoughts on Steelers versus Titans, and what are you looking forward in the future?
I thought it was a really good game. You know, like Guthrie mentioned, definitely the game of the day and really the week also. Yeah. I think they're gonna I could see them meeting the playoff. You know, who knows what's gonna happen from here on out, and who plays who in the playoffs. But I could definitely see these two teams meeting again.
Yeah, I completely agree. My takeaways are that this team was resilient. They definitely need to shore up their offense a little bit and just make sure not to take their foot off the gas. Because if that ball went a little bit to the left, we'd be having a whole different discussion today. So we're obviously happy that happened. We're all a little bit of Ben Roethlisberger with the he missed it reaction. But yeah, very happy to be a Steelers fan right now. It's exciting times, and just hope we continue to build off of it. Taking this into Baltimore.
Yeah, I just want to mention one more thing is they're 6-0. Obviously in a great place right now, but they definitely could play better and clean up a couple things. But it's great to see that a lot of the Steeler players, even though they won, they were upset by it. Cam Hayward was in his post game interview. He wasn't the reporter said he wasn't smiling or anything like that. He was upset that they let the Titans back into the game. And then I heard yesterday on Rich Eisen's show, Peter King was on there, and he said that he wanted to talk to Roethlisberger after the game, but the Steelers PR people told him that Roethlisberger was ticked off and he didn't really feel like talking. So I just thought that was a great thing to hear because we can't really say that for teams, past Steeler teams. I don't think they took it as hard as this team, even though they won. So they definitely have a championship type of mentality.
Yeah, and I guess the one last thing, I know I keep saying the one last thing, but it was just so nice to see Steeler Nation there representing. In Tennessee, with the limited amount of fans there, I definitely saw some terrible towels there, and I hope to continue to see that as more fans are let into stadiums.
Steelers Nation travels well, and you can see in the national media that a lot of these pundits, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, are still saying they're not impressed and stuff like that. And 6-0 with something to prove is certainly fine by me. And it's going to be fun in our next podcast as it's Steelers versus Ravens preview. Always fun to talk about this rivalry. And we'll have Jamison Hensley, ESPN NFL reporter for the Baltimore Ravens. And that's all for us. For Chris Ward and Guthrie Rasmussen, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in to the Renegade Blitz. Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. Our podcasts are available on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.